Well, hello and good morning. Welcome to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
So happy to have you along. Hey, folks, this show is going to be full of entertainment, excitement, and guests. We've had all sorts of things happen. I have to deal with a lot of prevention of identity theft, cyber crimes, those kind of things. And I'm required to have continuing education as a certified financial planner. I've got to go through classes. And so I signed up for this class for some CE credit. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be that insightful, interesting, or entertaining. However, we met a gentleman named Jeff Lanza. He was an FBI special agent and did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, talking about identity theft and cybercrime. So we brought on our very own Donald Hodson. Don co-founded the Financial Enhancement Group with me 23 years ago and runs our compliance division. So he's in charge of all things preventing cybercrime, preventing identity theft. He's the one that creates our processes and procedures. So we're going to have them on at the same time. On top of that, Brett Spangler, a CPA, part of the FEG team, said, "Hey, Joe, I'm getting a lot of confusing questions over the PPP loan." That came out with the CARES Act, March 27th. He's right. There's a lot of confusion from my bank, my other CPAs. And so Brett's going to give us the lowdown on what we know right now, things that you need to understand. So we'll get some insight into what's going on there. We're then going to move to some retirement conversations, and we'll see what happens. With Jeff, we may very wind up doing two segments on this show today, one talking about identity theft and one talking about cybercrime. If you own a computer, an iPhone, an Android, if you're on social media, these are things that you need to know about. Now, when we talk about the 5 critical elements, you know, your financial vision, your life after work, annual tax planning, the investment playbook, life happens, and the good and bad and the ugly of the state of life happens and the legacy happen. When we talk about them, that doesn't include cybercrime. But I will tell you, life happens, and it ain't the good, it's the bad and the ugly. If somebody steals your identity, or you have to endure cyber crime. So we're going to take a break. In the meantime, remember, if you're watching us live, 5 to 6 p.m. here Tuesday night, you can submit questions or call Angie, 800-928-4001. We'll take a break and be right back. All right, folks. Hey, thank you for tuning in and being on the live feed. Don't forget you can send in your questions. Angie, who's taking questions for us tonight? Do you know?
Should be Grant.
I believe it is our very own Grant Sullivan out of our Fisher's office. And but if you've got questions or comments, make sure that you send them in. We are happy to have those. So we'll go ahead and bring Don Hodson. He's an enrolled agent, the co-founder of the Financial Enhancement Group, as well as Jeff Lanza, and we'll get back to the show. So Casey. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
We're happy to have you along. Hey, we are going to get right into this. I met a very, very interesting gentleman, Jeff Lanza, an FBI special agent. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jeff make a couple opening remarks, and then Don and he are going to take over a conversation about preventing identity theft. Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thank you, Joe. I spent 20 years with the FBI as an agent in the Kansas City division, and most of my career I was involved in white-collar crime. Wait, that doesn't sound right. I actually investigated white-collar crime. I wasn't involved in it myself. But the two major components of the FBI's white-collar crime program are cybercrime and identity theft, and that's what I go around before COVID, go around and talk to groups about all over the country. During COVID, we're doing these events as virtual events, and that's where you saw me just a couple of weeks ago. So what I like to talk about first is a little bit about identity theft prevention, and then talk about how we keep ourselves safe from cybercrime. But there's a couple things we can do to keep ourselves safe from identity theft, and we can get into that during the program, but I'll sum it up with one key point on identity theft, and that is everyone should consider, and not just consider, freeze your credit reports, because that prevents people from opening up credit card accounts using your identity. With our social security numbers out there from the Equifax breach and other breaches that have happened, the criminals are getting those and they're using it to open credit card accounts and other accounts in our name. And that's a big mess to clean up. If you freeze your credit reports, they can't do that. So that's the important thing, the one important thing to do. And also, it's easy to lift the freezes. So if you need to get credit checked yourself, you're applying for a car loan, a new credit card, you can lift the freeze temporarily and then freeze it again. So to prevent identity theft, the most common form of identity theft, I'd say freeze your credit reports. You don't want to go through the hassle of that. That's the number one thing you should do regarding that topic.
Perfect. Now, I want to say this on Don's behalf before we start. We have to protect a little over $500 million of assets and 1,100 families. So a lot of what Don's going to ask back and forth to Jeff today, we have to go a few steps higher than what you would normally think would be reasonable. So Don doesn't want you to think we're basic at this. What we do in the office is very, very sophisticated. But this needs to be understood for you individually is very, very important. So with Don, my partner, good friend, and Chief Compliance Officer, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it is. I work closely with our IT staff in an ever-changing effort to create a bubble, so to speak, around our network so that we work in a controlled and managed environment. It's an encrypted world of multi-passwords, multi-authentications, passphrases, and even then, a lot of times you can't get where you want to go. But as I have thought about this, once I end my work day and I go home, which these days is go in the other room, there sits my laptop where I'll sit down to check my email, pay a few bills, order my groceries, see what's going on Amazon that I need. And I think that puts me in a position of most users once I don't have all the things available to me that we do in our office environment. So, given that and the way we do personally use our equipment, Jeff, what are the things that I could have done beforehand or during that could have reduced my risk? Because in a matter of 20 minutes, I think I exposed everything I have to the world.
Yeah, well, I think it's really a matter of not what you can do, but what you can do on an ongoing basis. Not before you went on, but on an ongoing basis. Now, before you went on the computer, Don, you probably know this well, being in compliance and IT, that having on our personal computers, having antivirus software on Windows computers is probably one of the most significant things you can do, and keeping that updated to stay safe from the kind of threats that you're talking about when you're going to Amazon and you're getting emails from places that you've done business with. Is it really coming from that place, or is it a phishing email designed to get us to provide our login credentials? So setting yourself up by keeping your antivirus software updated, keeping the software on your computer updated, and then on a regular basis, then you should be watching out for phishing emails. A phishing email is where someone and Joe alluded to this earlier. When you get an email from a criminal that's designed to look like it means something to you, and it may have an emotional component, like you owe the IRS money for past taxes, for example, and you click on the email to see what that's all about. But that doesn't make sense already, because the IRS is going to send you a letter, not an email, if you owe money to them. But there might be an attachment in that email, and you can click on that and could put malicious software on your computer. Now, if that gets by your antivirus software, which is the first step I talked about to keep safe, then you may have a problem, because that could take your computer keystrokes when you log into your bank accounts and other accounts and send those to the criminal. So watching what we click on is important. Using common sense when we see things that come up and there's a problem with your PayPal account, there's a problem with your bank account, your credit card has been breached, click here. Got to watch out for those tricks, which may put malicious software on our computer or give the criminals our login credentials to those accounts if it takes us to a login page. So not only is it setting it up to be safe, but then continuing it on a regular basis to watch out for the tricks that the criminals use.
Hey, you're listening to Jeff Lanza, FBI special agent, talking about preventing identity theft, as well as Don Hodson, one of my partners and a chief compliance officer at the Financial Enhancement Group. Hey, Jeff, when Don and I started keeping money at TD Ameritrade, custodian is what it was called, they set us down and they said that when people went fishing for information, they were trying to figure out how to steal $500. And by probably 3 years ago, Donnie, I think they said they gave that up. They're now looking at 2 years where they know everything about you, including your dog's name. And the email I got today said it was from Don Hodson, had Your Life After Work. And then below that, he called me Joseph, which means I'm in trouble, right? That's the only time that happens. So there was a telltale sign. But it said, I'm in a meeting. I need you to answer a question immediately for a compliance related, so it used all the buzzwords that would evoke emotion, right? Because they knew how I fit into the deal. But if you clicked on that on the email, it clearly was not from us. They had spoofed it. So what can I do? What can I tell my wife who's watching this at home, who's going, how do I know it's from Joe, Don, or Jeff? That's you, Jeff.
Well, if you're asking me, so you're putting the personal information out there on your website in various places. You can't really. You can restrict some of the stuff you put out there on social media. I tell people that all the time. Keep your Facebook private. Only let people have access to that. Same thing with other social media sites as well. Keep that information as private as you can. But when it comes to your business, Joe, and you have a website and you're trying to promote yourself. I mean, you have a business model where people can easily find out about you and find out about Don and your relationship, and then spoof Don's email account. Not even hijack it from Don, but make it look like it's coming from Don by just manipulating the letters a little bit, maybe switching the letters around. And you may not notice that because you're getting a lot of emails every day. And then that emotion takes place and you don't notice that somebody set up a domain name to look like Don's email address, only there's 2 letters reversed, so there's an extra letter in there, you don't see it. And you get something like that. So really the backup we all have is this. If we're going to take action involving providing information to someone or money based on an email request, we don't do it unless we talk to that person first. If Don says, "Hey, I need you to wire money based on this, business deal that we're doing," maybe that's not in Don's job description. But let's just say, he says, "Hey, we got this deal. You got to wire money." You're not going to wire money without calling Don up. "Hey, Don, just making sure that this is a legitimate request." Joe, we need all the W-2s from our employees because I need to look at all those, and they have Social Security numbers on those. You're not going to send those without talking to Don. "Hey, Don, you sure you need those W-2s?" Yeah, but that applies in our personal lives too, not just in a business setting.
Fair enough. Hey, and Angie says we have a question for you guys.
This one actually may be more for Don. It says, what is the form CRS that I've been receiving from my financial institutions?
Well, that's a new SEC requirement that is short for Client Relationship Summary. And that is what is used to present your services in short form, what your fees are, and allow you to quickly compare one firm to another.
It's the breakdown of how businesses operate, and what you've got to be concerned with right now are firms who aren't using it. It really breaks down everything, and it seems to me to be an overreaction. But the fact that there are people who aren't using it at all will let you know that there are people that probably shouldn't be in our industry. Jeff, Don, here's the deal. We got about a minute and 15 seconds left. We're going to come back and take this on to the next side to talking about cybercrime. So Don, work on your questions. Folks, if you've been listening to this and if you've been part of the radio show, you know one of our deals is to offer the Next Steps meeting. And very, very simply put, that's a time when you either go online to the website, yourlifeafterwork.com, you call Angie at 800-928 4001. Either one of those work, and we'll get you set up for a complimentary 90-minute meeting. Now, why is it complimentary? Because we don't partner with everybody. It's not everybody is a right fit. We take care of people who don't want to worry about their money. And it's very, very essential that it's the right person, right team that you partner with. We are very much a coordinated and collaborated effort where you have 27 people working together. You have one or two people in front of you, but you've got a whole army behind you. So give Angie a call at 800-928-4001 or go to yourlifeafterwork.com. We'll sit down, tell you things you need to consider today, things to consider in the future, and if we partner together, what FEG will do for you. We'll take a break and be right back. All right, guys, thank you for the question. Greatly appreciate that. So Donnie and Jeff, you can stay. Jeff, if you've got something you want to add about identity theft, feel free. If not, we will take this to cybercrime and go in there. But I'll just let you guys two run with it. Jeff, I want to make sure we give you plenty of time, so you do your thing to get in your points that you want. And when I bring it back, I'm going to give them how to contact you, and then I'll do that again at the end. Okay?
Okay.
Casey.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you along. Hey, we have two guests with us coming from the first segment. FBI Special Agent Jeff Lanza. You can reach him at 816-853-3929, or at the internet site is the lanzagroup.com. So that's the LANZAGROUP.com. He, like I said, is talking about preventing cybercrime and identity theft. Did a great job talking. We've got our own Chief of Compliance, Don Hodson, joining in with us today. So, Jeff, I'll let you go ahead and take it away. And, Don, when you've got questions, ask, please.
Yeah.
So in the previous segment, we started talking about a little bit about cybercrime and getting these phishing emails. Let me take it up one step further and talk about email account hijacking, which can be used to commit so much more fraud. And that's when someone gets an email that looks like it's coming from your email provider, say Yahoo or Gmail. There's a problem with the account. You've been blacklisted. Someone's used your password in Romania. And that causes us to click on a link to try to fix that problem, which doesn't exist. It's a trick. That brings you to a fake login page. And then on that login page, you put in your username or password. Then the criminal has it, right? They log into your email account and they can create lots of havoc. So this is what we want to avoid happening. They can start to commit more fraud once they get access to our email account, and including sending emails to people like Joe and saying, hey, I need money from my account. Please wire it to this bank account. And Joe's not going to do that. You know, he knows better. He's watching your assets. He has your back. But we need to be careful about that too. And one more example I'd like to share with you is a big problem today. It's a $200 million problem. It's where people are getting ready to buy a house and they get an email that they think is coming from their mortgage company or their title company or a lawyer involved in the process of buying a house. It's a criminal that has taken over those email accounts, and they want you to wire money for your house closing. And people throughout the United States have collectively lost $200 million based on this trick in 2019. 11,000 victims last year. So whenever you wire money for any reason, house or other purpose, make sure you call the recipient to verify the money's going to the right place, not based on email instructions alone. Really important to do that. The only way we're going to stop this epidemic crime is to make sure that the criminals don't get the money, so they'll stop trying to commit the crime.
Amen. I will tell you, Donnie, I don't know about you. I had never heard that one until Jeff told me in the conference that we had.
Yeah, I agree.
That's and I know I had to. I closed, my bank account was with one bank, Jeff. I closed, the other account was the same bank, and they force you to wire the money under the rules. So I could easily, I bet I had 15 emails, and I was irritable, because I was having to go through that. So I could see that happening to somebody in a heartbeat.
It's very easy to wire. Yeah, I'm sorry, Don. I was going to say it's very easy to wire money in this country. It's designed to be that way so we can move money around. It happens all the time. It's almost too easy to wire money. So we have to be careful when we order our bank to send money and based on emails that we get or text messages that we get. Really, really important to do that.
Yeah, you nailed it. The human contact element goes a long way to mitigate that. People in our firm know, even from a regulatory standpoint, that we can take no action whatsoever based on an email. Not really to do anything. So we do everything we can to prevent those kind of things. We've certainly been subject to fraudulent requests on many occasions that we've had to follow up, but picking up the phone and calling somebody goes a long way when it comes to your money.
Yeah, we had Jeff, we actually had a male call and pose as a female of somebody who we knew, she had just lost her husband, and, they're trying to say that we need money for, expenses. And I thought half my team was going to eat him alive if they could figure out how to get there. Anyhow, what else would you like to add?
I would like to mention passphrases. Don mentioned that in the very beginning. Passwords need to be really strong to protect our accounts. Otherwise, they could be broken by brute force methods, people using computers to guess passwords. But the problem is we come up with a big complex password. It has uppercase, lowercase, a number, and a symbol. And we use that over and over again because we don't want to come up with a complex password for all of our accounts. And that causes another problem where people can get our password for one place and use it at another place. So I suggest using passphrases. That encourages us to have something unique. A passphrase is like a sentence, a group of words you put together, one long phrase, but it's unique because you can associate it with an account. Now, for example, you might use for your Social Security online account, you might have something like "Show me the money." They still require upper and lower case. You can put those in there if you need to. For your Netflix account, my favorite movie, The Godfather, best line in that first Godfather movie: "Leave the gun, take the cannoli." You can use that as your passphrase for Netflix as an example. Take out the spaces, that type of thing. So this is a great way because it encourages us to come up with something unique and different for each account. It'll keep those accounts a lot safer than using the same password, even if it's strong, for different accounts.
Great point. So how do you spell Luca Bracci swimmer with the fishies? Right?
That's going to be hard. Too many S's in there.
Yeah, that one might not work. I will tell you, and I shared this with Jeff before, and I don't even know if I told Don, but one of the smartest people that I know on the planet literally got held hostage. 200 or 300 different people work on their team. I think 80 are have a computer in front of them, and somebody clicked on a link. And I'm telling you, that link opened up the world, and he had to provide $50,000 in Bitcoin, called the FBI, Jeff, and the FBI essentially said, you can pay it or not pay it, but there's not anything we can do. They're nowhere near the border. And, so he had to pay $50,000 to get his system back. You always worry, I guess, in kidnapping, how do you know you're going to get the system back? But they did. And but $50,000 later because somebody clicked on a link. Right?
Yeah, Joe, what you're talking about is a ransomware attack. It's a major problem today. Another epidemic problem. It's affecting businesses in a big way. Where I live in Kansas City, believe it or not, Garmin, the GPS company, a high-tech company, was victimized by a ransomware attack and publicly announced that they were paying lots of money in ransom to get their systems back. It happens many times when we click in the wrong place. So again, remember this rule: emails from unknown senders, unsolicited, emails from suspicious senders, or ones that don't make sense, like that IRS email I talked about earlier. Don't click on a link or an attachment in those emails, because that could put that software on your computer, malware, which could lock it up, forcing you to pay a ransom to get your computer back. Another solution to ransomware: have a good backup and a current backup of your system that's kept offline on a hard drive or in the cloud, or preferably both, so you'll be able to recover from an attack without paying a ransom.
I like that idea, Don. Take that under advisement, buddy. I do have to tell you this, Jeff, just as full disclosure. For 20 years of being on the radio, I've always told people that the IRS doesn't make phone calls. Well, we're in a pandemic, and it turns out in 2020, where you have to expect the unexpected, the IRS is actually making phone calls today. Most of them are for businesses on a tax form called 941, but they are calling. So you have to be careful, or you might get a nasty gram from the IRS. Hey, you're listening to Jeff Lanza, FBI Special Agent, expert in preventing identity theft, preventing cybercrime. If you would like to find out more about Jeff, you can go to the lanzagroup.com. That's LANZA in the middle, thelanzagroup.com. His phone number is 816-853-3929. Jeff, any final comments?
I have a book on my website that covers all of this and much more. If you want to look at that, you can take a look at that. It's only half the price of James Comey's book, so it's a great deal as well. I would just say be careful out there. Regardless of the book, you can get it if you want, but be careful. Some of the things I talked about and Don mentioned, I think we can all be well served by just a little bit of being careful online when we'll stay safe that way.
Absolutely. And I would strongly encourage that. Donald, as my compliance officer, partner, and dear friend, any final words?
Don't click it.
Don't click it. It's and it's true. It's, Barb came in. Barb is my wife, and she's Jeff working for the firm now and helping run my calendar as my executive assistant. And she'll come in and she'll go, "What is all this stuff that I can't click on?" Because everything that has an attachment has like 19 warnings. Are you sure you want to open this? It's their little head of Don looking at you like, "Are you sure?" Right? But we are very, very cautious with that. And gentlemen, I greatly appreciate both of your time tonight being here with us. And if you've got anything you want to add, or anybody wants to get a hold of Jeff, you can reach him, Jeff Lanza. That's Jeff and LANZA at thelanzagroup.com. Of course, you can reach Don at Your Life After Work. Anywhere on the website. As Jeff pointed out, you can find out pretty much anything you want to know about us, including that CRS form that's the SEC puts out there. I think the ADV Part 2 is more important, but you can go there as well. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Have a great evening. Appreciate it much. Jeff, I look forward to talking to you again next time. So, hey,
Thanks
folks,
so much,
you're listening to Consider This program. We do our best to bring you things you need to know. And I know this may not be about retirement, but for God's sakes, if somebody steals everything you've got or locks up your system in your world, you might as well not have taken the time to save and accumulate it anyhow. This is a painful world. If you want to know more or get signed up for your Next Steps meeting, don't forget you can go to yourlifeafterwork.com or give Angie a call at 800-928-4001. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting, 800-928-4001. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. We do our best to try to find interesting things. We're getting ready to bring on Brett Spangler. Brett's part of the FEG team, a CPA, great guy. And we're going to talk a little bit about PPP loans. I'm going to let Brett go as opposed to have a lot of questions. I'm just going to let him do his thing, and then I will poke and prod toward we get to the end. But there's a lot to cover, and I want to make sure that we get there. So we'll go ahead and get started. Casey. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you along. Hey, we have got a special guest, one of the FEG team, Brett Spangler. Brett happens to be our only CPA that's on our team, so critical to have. As you've heard me talked about along the way from March 27th on, the federal government passed what was called the PPP loan. I'm going to let Brett explain what that is, what it means. What I will tell you is there was a lot of confusion in the beginning over how it went. There was changes along the way, and now it's a period of time where people have to apply to get the loans forgiven. So we're having small business owners call and ask us questions. We're having journalists ask us questions. And we're having people who are not business owners going, hey, why did these businesses get loans in the first place? So Brett, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it and run with it. And I'll ask questions along the way if need be, but just do your thing.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, the PPP, or Paycheck Protection Program, is a loan that was an idea that came up as part of the CARES Act, as Joe mentioned, passed on March 27th. And basically, the coronavirus was shutting down the economy, and Congress created the PPP to assist millions of small businesses that were facing, uncertain futures. And the idea was if small businesses could retain the talent through the temporary slowdown due to the virus, then they could both keep people employed and then off of potentially off unemployment, and then businesses could retain talent and instead of having to rehire, a layoff, and then potentially lose those people when they go to rehire. So that was the idea. The PPP program actually was formulated in a week it was a joint venture between the United States Small Business Administration and the U.S. Treasury Department. And to date, there's been about 5.2 million loans and about 525 billion that has been lent under the program. So it's been a massive program. Now, one of the provisions of which made the program attractive was the loan had a forgiveness component. So essentially, when this was rolled out, the idea was that if small business owners followed certain requirements, then potentially the loan could be forgiven and become a grant and not be required to be paid back. So that's what and we're in that situation now where businesses are starting to fill out forgiveness applications, and there's a lot of confusion. Obviously, when a program this large was rolled out in a week, there's been a lot of rules that have been amended, which causes a lot of confusion because there's a lot of changes that happen, a lot of requirements that have been amended, and so there's just a lot of mass confusion among a lot of small businesses, wanting to know what they need to do so their loan will be forgiven.
We have two external CPA firms that we work with, Brett, and the CPA and the bankers were arguing over who was responsible for filling out some of this stuff. And what say you on that?
Well, you're exactly right, because there's a lot of confusion in the market, and so I will tell you it was a lot of my banker friends that I had conversations with over this. There was a lot of confusion there as well because of the changes that happened so fast, and so it was a lot to keep track of. And you can imagine with businesses dealing with the coronavirus, where had a lot of other things on to keep track of besides trying to follow all these changes. So currently, there's two items that I get a lot of questions on that there's been articles, because they tend to be articles that can be put in the format of clickbait, where there's
motivation.
The titles could be right. So one is the deductibility of the expenses. So essentially, when the program was formed, the forgiveness of the loans was not going to be counted as taxable income. However, the IRS sent out a notice of clarification, and under the current statute, if you use PPP funds that are forgiven for a business expense, they're currently not eligible to be deducted. So in the sense, the loan is becoming taxable income. So for instance, if you use it for $20,000 worth of payroll expenses, under the current statute, you wouldn't be able to deduct that $20,000 in tax return. This was not the intention of Congress when they set up the program, and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the AICPA, along with hundreds of different advocacy groups, are currently working with Congress to get that fixed. It's just a glitch that was in the current tax code. And so we're keeping a close eye on that. But essentially, but it's hard to get, right now it's hard to get anything passed in Congress. So that's kind of just been
Imagine
hanging
that.
out there. It was expected to be fixed by now. So
I think Angie's got a question for you too, Brett.
Hey, Brett, are there
Sure.
different kinds or different types of loan forgiveness applications, like depending on the business?
Yeah, as of last Thursday, there's three. There's actually the full-blown complicated form. They did release an EZ form, and now last Thursday they released a simplified form. So essentially, there's a set of rules. If you qualify, most people qualify for the EZ form, and that's basically you're either a self-employed or a small business owner with no employees, or you are a small business with employees and you didn't reduce their salary, or the number of employees or salary more than 25%, or you were a small business owner and you didn't reduce your staff by more than 25%, and the hours that might have been reduced were a direct result of COVID. So, for instance, if you are a restaurant and you were mandated to, not be able to have people come inside and eat, then those are the eligibility for the EZ. So it's pretty broad. And then the simplified is for the same standards if your loan was $50,000 or less.
So these PPP loans are for businesses, but don't forget the CARES Act allowed for things for individuals with IRAs and 401ks as well. We're getting ready to send out our tax package to our families this week. And we're talking about income variability. And that's one of the things, if you're doing this on your own, that you need to pay attention to. Remember, if you're looking for a fiduciary, that is our job. And we're happy to have that call at 800-928-4001. Just call and ask Angie. You can talk to one of our team. You can meet with Brett. Happy to be able to help. You have another question, Angie?
Yeah, I do. If a borrower submits an application, then do they still have to make payments on the prior SBA loan that they had prior to asking for forgiveness?
Well, the PPP loan, there's no payments that are due when you're in the forgiveness stage. So essentially, you have 10 months after what the terminology is the covered period. And essentially, when the loan was first started, you had an 8-week period, and then June 5th and after, it became a 24-week period. So basically, you had covered expenses during that time. So 10 months after the last date of your covered period is you have to submit the application. So so once you've submitted it, and this will all, by the way, this was another point of confusion. It runs through the bank that you received the loan from. You should be getting information, emails, links, and so forth for portals to submit your forgiveness application from the bank that you received your loan from. And if you haven't, I would recommend you reaching out to your bank, because I've had a couple of situations where it was caught in spam or other things where they hadn't received the link to the portal. But yes.
Okay. What contributions for retirement benefits will be considered payroll costs that are eligible for loan forgiveness?
The employer portion. So
Yes.
no part of the employee deferral is able to be counted, and that's sometimes gets confused. So if an employer makes a contribution to an retirement plan on behalf of their employees, that is considered a eligible payroll cost.
Okay. Well, how is the amount of owner compensation that's eligible for loan forgiveness determined? How do they come up with that?
Well, without getting too deep, because it's calculated differently depending on what kind of business, whether it's your sole proprietor, a partnership, an S corp. Essentially, if it's a partnership or a C corp, it's essentially two and a half times your whatever their the net income eligible self-employment divided by 12. And S corp, it's based on what the owner's W-2 is. So it's a little complicated. So that would definitely be something you would want to run by whoever you're receiving your professional advice from, as far as tax preparer and so forth, because that's kind of complicated. So.
Hey, Brett, buddy, we appreciate you tuning in. Folks, if you've got any questions or anything you want to know, you can reach Brett at Spangler, not with an R, Spangler at yourlifeafterwork.com or at 800-928-4001. Thanks for tuning in, Brett. We appreciate all the insight.
Thanks.
Hey, don't forget to call Angie. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. 800-928-4001. We'll be right back. All right. Sorry, you guys got to see the live streaming stuff. When batteries go dead, real things have to happen. And you watched Andy scramble. I mean, it's amazing how
No, they
quickly
didn't have you on there.
how quickly he can move. Yeah, I know. I saw that. Anyhow, good stuff. All right, we're going to go into retirement conversations. This is going to be kind of basic for some of you, but I'm going to try to provide a little bit more insight than perhaps what the USA Today did. Yes, Angie.
Since we did 2 segments with cybersecurity, and then that one was our third, do you want to talk about the dying with appreciated assets?
No,
since the
we'll
article?
be fine. Do the retirement conversations. Pull up that USA Today article
it.
we found, and we'll be ready to roll.
Got it.
All right, Casey. Good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you along. Man, I love having guests, Angie.
I know.
But I hate the feedback in my ears. I'm not, I have no idea how professional
hard.
singers do. I felt like I was talking so slow. Anyhow,
Yes.
Hey, if this is your first segment today, make sure you go to our website at yourlifeafterwork.com, iTunes, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify. Listen to the show this week. If you're on WIBC, you only get a few of the segments. You don't get the introduction and the outro, by the way. So make sure you go back. We had an FBI special agent, Jeff Lanza, that was on talking about security crime or cyber crime and preventing identity theft. Brett Spangler was on about the PPP forgiveness and changes that are coming. And I want to hit a little bit about retirement conversations, because that really is, when I look at my cause, what drives me, what gets me up in the morning, we're looking to add 2,500 families across the country to help them understand that they're going to go from what's called defined contribution plans, IRAs and 401ks, 403bs for teachers and not-for-profit, and it's going to become a defined distribution plan. You're going to be forced into that world, and what we want to help you do is design a distribution plan, one that makes sense for you, not for the IRS. And that's where we are. So there's a lot of complexity around that. It seems so simple when you start. And I've spent 32 years of my life working on it, 23 years now at the Financial Enhancement Group. Not quite so simple. So Angie, you can go ahead and ask the questions. I will do my best to answer them.
Okay, yeah, because this article has 6 retirement considerations, and we are checklist people.
Yes, we are.
Yes, which, by the way, we do have those on our website. And
At yourlifeafterwork.com, you can get signed up and download a checklist anytime you want. If there's something that you need to know or want to know, whether it's an in-service non-hardship distribution, what to do before buying an annuity, what happens if you lose a spouse, questions like that, how to buy a house. We have put together checklists for our planning team. We bring our group together. We want to make sure that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And so it's our best collective thought so that you get the same guidance from everybody on the team. We believe in coordinated collaboration. That means it's people who have special focuses. If you want to know about a special needs trust, you want me to provide the answers, but you want the research to have come from somebody where that's their forte. That's what they study. If you want to know about higher education expenses, you want Darren and Grant to be a part of that. And they've helped to build those checklists so that my team can help go through those with you. We have internal ones that are very complex. We have external ones that will give you things that you need to consider. So fire away.
okay,
Mitch.
so these are 6 considerations.
I feel like I'm on a timer.
When are you going to retire? Why would that be important?
When are you going to retire? Now remember, here's the kicker in this. COVID probably has some people who retired who didn't intend to.
Yep.
Right? We had some people who were scared to death who didn't want to go back to work. They had enough money, said, I'm not going to work in a place where there's a lot of people where I could risk my future, my life, and my parents that they took care of. You may get laid off without a pandemic, right? Where you don't have that ability. Or you may have, in one case of one of the families we take care of, the offer is so good that it is going to be hard to walk away. And and if anybody else, I would make them put in writing and swear on a stack of Bibles that they were going to leave. I trust this guy that he's really going to do it, but it's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be take a trip to the bathroom the day you turn in your papers when you're losing a lot of promised money if you just stick around. We call those golden handcuffs. So you can't always control the timing. Here's the deal. The longer you wait to retire, the greater the percentage of your assets you can use without fear of running out, because you're going to have less life expectancy after retirement if you work longer. I mean, by definition, unless you believe retiring is going to let you live longer. I mean, maybe if you have a horrible job, but you've got a smaller window, if you will, that we've got to take care of. That leaves room for less error, less volatility, if you will. That's one. And two, less years mean we can use a larger percentage of income. So you want to have a target, but you also want to give a range, not just I'm retiring July 1st of 2024. You can have that, but having a range is probably a safer wager, if you will.
The second one is probably the most asked question we get, and that is, how much do you need to have saved to be able to retire?
Remember, when you look on the internet to find out the answer of what you need to have for retirement, they're always going to talk about a percentage of replacement of your income, and that's horse poo. That may be true academically. It may be true of averages. If I've got to look at the United States society, 330 million people and how it works for them. But when I'm looking at it for you, for your family, for what's going on, the way my team puts us together is it's about replacing 100% of your standard of living. So the amount of money that we need is the amount of money that we need to provide your standard of living plus what we get from mailbox checks. Could be a pension, could be rental income, could be farm income, and for most of us, at some point in time, it will be Social Security income. Not only is it the combination of how much you get, but when you get it and how you best exercise your rights as a U.S. taxpayer to make sure that you're facilitating the right tax strategy. That does not mean avoiding or evading either one. One will put you in handcuffs, one will get you fined, but it doesn't mean either of those from taxes. It means understanding in the United States, ladies and gentlemen, you have two tax codes. And people think it's one for the rich and one for the poor. Just ask the politicians. The reality is no. It's one for the informed and one for the uninformed. And what I will strongly suggest to you is that if you know and don't do, you might as well not have known, right? Two tax codes. Let's make sure that you're on the informed side and that you take action.
Where and how do you want to live?
Your domicile, the state of residence. So in different states, different things are taxed different ways. There's a state on the East Coast that will remain nameless, primarily because I forget which one it is, that looked at their census. Census is just a measurement of people. And what they recognized is they had very little people with a federal pension in their state. However, right across the border, there was a state that had lots and lots of people that had federal pensions. And so the state without the federal pensions got together and goes, why don't we make federal pension income tax free? Now, that doesn't mean that they made General Motors income tax free or Eli Lilly or teachers or anybody else, just federal employees. And sure enough, can you imagine this? People moved into their state. So the state was able to pick up property taxes, gain property values, right? So they made a minor shift here to get a major influx over there. Where you live matters. There are some states like Tennessee that have no state tax, but they do have taxes on long-term capital gains. Well, if all your money's in an IRA, you don't have any long-term capital gain. Doesn't matter. Tennessee is a very viable option. Florida, Texas, Arizona, there's states like that that have no state tax at all, and they may be the right place for you depending on what climate you want to have. There are states that are what's called quasi-community property. They get into estate planning. So when we sit down to help people understand where their best bets are, it really is a matter of, do you have an income tax problem today? Will you have one in the future if you've got a lot of tax-deferred assets? Do you have an estate tax problem, or will you in the future? Any of those can dictate on, this might be a better place for your trust to be set up or a better place for you to live.
That was kind of a two-part consideration because it also asked how you want to live. And I know we focus a lot on a financial vision or
the understanding what your
living.
financial vision is. My team is trained to help you break your budget You will, we believe that you should have a retirement budget. I don't have a budget, haven't had one since I had more month than I did money. Think about it. It's really, really true. It's very, very sad and depressing. Why would anybody have a budget if you couldn't pay it all? But that's the world that we lived in when we started the business back in 1987, 88. The reality is, though, when you go to retire, even though you may have plenty of assets and you may have never lived on a budget, you need to have a retirement budget to free up your ability to use what it is you worked so hard to save. You did the heavy lifting, ladies and gentlemen. You guys did the work. That wasn't us at the Financial Enhancement Group. Our job is not to tell you, what you should spend money on and any of that. Our job is to say, if you say, I want to spend $100,000 to buy a car or a boat or a second home, it's our job to tell you of your asset mix based on your tax situation, your financial vision, where the best place is for that $100,000 to come from. Now, what we know from 32 years of me doing this, almost 33 now, I guess. Wow. And 23 years of the Financial Enhancement Group. What we know is if we can help you put together a retirement budget that is broken into two areas, fixed income and social income, that comes together to create that coordinated amount of income that's coming in, then we can give you more income during your younger years when you're able to travel and do things, enjoy your grandkids and enjoy life, and have a better use of your capital, if you will. Right. So it's about maintaining your standard of living too.
Okay, I'm going to skip down because I think this one's important. What family obligations do you have?
Yeah, obligations are weird. There are some times where guilt is a powerful emotion. So I don't know where you live in the church world and how you look at things, but guilt is just bad, right? I mean, it's not something that you ought to have. So there are some of us that feel like we have obligations to our kids because they're our kids. There's some of us that have special needs children or special needs grandchildren where we really feel that obligation that's there. I try not to look at it, Angie, when we talk to families about it being an obligation per se, as opposed to an objective, right? If we've got families that simply say, if at the end of the day it's all gone, then I raised my kids. I got them through college. I gave them a good upright. If there's money left, they can have it, but don't count on me leaving it.
Right. But where you may move or live or when might determine if you have elderly parents.
Absolutely. But again, sometimes that gets into guilt. Sometimes that gets into the real world, right?
Yes.
Of here's how I want to live that life. And what I'm trying to tell you is just don't be judgmental. I very much believe in spiritual gifts. And I think some people have the spiritual gift of caring, nurturing, bathing, feeding, and doing all of that stuff. That would be my wife. It would be my daughters. It is not Joe, right? There are some people who have the ability to write checks and say, here, Christian Center, you go do your thing, right? And I've got people whose hands shake when they turn over checks, and so we all have different talents and different things. Understand what yours is. And it is very common. I've got one in Lafayette. Mom's finally passed away, but he took care of all the financial stuff. His sister, the daughter, took care of all of the touchy-feely stuff. That was their deal. Both were happy, right? Yeah. I mean, and we all live really in that world of having to negotiate that. But it could be kids, it could be parents. We are in this. Most of us in this baby boom generation are in this sandwich, with what's called the sandwich, where we get done taking care of our kids, and many of us are going to wind up taking care of our parents. This year, with not seeing my mom, thank you, COVID, for that. She's down in Sarasota. I've yet to see her for the year. I find that totally unacceptable, and looking forward to seeing her shortly. So some of my viewpoints may be changing on that. Hey, 800-928-4001. Call Angie. Get signed up for a Next Step meeting. I look forward to seeing you soon. 800-928-4001. All right, guys. Hey, keep the questions coming if you got them. We will try to get them in. I do want to know what y'all thought about Jeff Lanza and Don and having Brett on there. Your feedback comes directly to Angie and myself, so we're able to see it to go, hey, this is a value to people who listen, not a value. We can try to find things that are out there. But what we want to do is be as valuable for you as we possibly can be. So we'll go ahead and go into the end. I know you've got something you want to talk about. I want to make a public statement first.
I was going to say, we don't have to talk about that because we could also do the very last consideration, which is kind of a fun one.
We can do that. Casey. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you along. This is my public service announcement.
Okay.
In the middle of the most contentious election that I hope we ever see in our lives. Sadly, I will doubt if it is the most contentious. But up to this point in time, when I see friends and family, it tends to be what I would call the most contentious, the most separating, most vile. Yes, I did say vile. And I mean, it just frustrates me. However, we had Brett on the PPP Act or the CARES Act that came out March of this year. And I've got to give Congress a kudos. Yes, there were mistakes in there. There were some of the things in the PPP, the Payroll Plus program loans. There were things inside of there that could have been clearer. There's some confusion. But the fact that Congress got together, voted to get that bill passed, you have to understand what I lived through in 08 and 09. You guys saw it in your 401k statements. You saw it in your brokerage accounts. I saw it managing, about 500 families at the time's life savings. And it was just watching Congress was nothing short of, you've got to be kidding me. And it was totally the opposite this time. Republican, Democrat, they came together. That was the only way that stuff got passed as quickly as it did. Forgive them for any confusion. And every day when I hear all of the frustration and the headache that's going on right now, I try to remind myself they got it right in March. Now, I may not be happy that they put all the money in the system, but they probably needed to put the money in the system. But the point is they worked together to get it done.
Well,
you have one last question.
Well, not just the election going on election day. This interesting article that I found says that others have a lot riding on election day. And one of those is Uber and Lyft.
Absolutely. Tell me why quickly.
Well, because in the state of California, they're asking to vote on Proposition 22.
They have more propositions there.
Prop 22.
Prop 22.
Basically, to see if these are going to be considered employees or contract workers. And it's going to depend on, if they're employees, then they're going to have to pay into all of these things. They're going to also have to get sick days. And so anyway, it was very interesting because these types of places are threatening to shut down if they have to consider them employees.
It is very contentious. And if you've looked at the California stuff, and I have in this case, we have an office out there, not a physical location, but we've got people that are out there that are planners, that see families. It is a challenging world across the country in many different areas. California's got its own set of issues, however. So do our neighbors to the left called Illinois.
I thought it was interesting that the people are voting on that.
No kidding.
So.
800-928-4001, yourlifeafterwork.com. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to give Angie a call. Have a great week, and we'll see you again soon. Hey, folks, thanks for the questions. Please keep them coming. I know tonight was interesting in terms of what a normal show is. We didn't really get into a lot of retirement stuff except for the last segment, but we got in stuff that matters. My buddy Ed Slott from IRAhelp.com, Ed and I are dear friends, and one of his things is it doesn't matter. I can't say it in the Manhattan accent that Ed's got, but it doesn't matter who's winning at the first quarter. It doesn't matter who's winning at halftime. It doesn't matter who's winning at the third quarter. What matters is who's winning at the end of the game. And the end of the game is actually being able to use your money in the way you want it used, in a way that is most efficient for your financial stuff that is coming out. And if cybercrime or you've got identity theft, if they get in the way or they muddy it up, or if somebody asks about the PPP loan and you don't understand it and what's going on, we just want to bring you insight and information that may be able to help you, may be able to protect you, but most importantly, give you insight into a world that you may not see and may not even understand. And as Donnie summarized the whole thing, if you get a download and it's from somebody you don't know, don't click it. I get downloads from people I do know, and I don't click it because I don't know what's on the other side of that, and I don't know who forwarded it on. And we have had problems in the Clark household. My wife has clicked on things in the past in a Yahoo account and said, well, it was from my mom and dad. Mom and dad would never hurt us. No, but you don't know what mom and dad have on their computer from other things that they've clicked. So please be careful with that. There are people out there who will invest a lot of their time and energy to make your life miserable. We don't do that. We help reduce financial regrets. We appreciate you tuning in. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Be well, my friends.